What if Max Verstappen starts his own Formula 1 team? Bruce McLaren did it, so did Jack Brabham, both whilst they were still competing. Jackie Stewart and Adam Prost did it after they retired. Well, Max Verstappen is well on his way to being one of the most decorated Formula 1 drivers of all time. And maybe he will retire from F1 after his contract runs out at the end of 2028. But I also think it's likely he'll build his own thing, his own team. He's kind of already doing it with Verstappen.com Racing, where he's supporting his dad, Jos, doing rally, Thierry Vermeulen as well in GTs. And of course, we can't forget his Team Redline escapades. But what would his own team look like in the big leagues? A Max Verstappen Formula 1 team. Let's talk about it. Okay, let's start with branding, logo. And fortunately for Max, he's already got a really strong brand, especially the little icon he's got, the little MV. Easily recognizable from a distance, simple, spot on. It's just like McLaren have their kind of speed mark, don't they? Mercedes have their trident, Haas even have their little H, which is quite nice. But then as for the team name itself, I'm going with Verstappen GP. Verstappen.com Racing is what he already has. I mean, the .com is a bit weird, but whatever. But I want to bring back Brawn GP vibes. Grand Prix or GP technically defines any multi-round motorsport series, so he could carry Verstappen GP across, again, WEC, IMSA if you wanted teams there as well, just like McLaren have got a team in pretty much every discipline right now. But also, his race engineer, Giampiero Lambiase GP. Come on. It's got to be, innit? A nice touch to commemorate an iconic duo in Formula 1. And as for the colourway, well, of course, I've got the dark navy blue. Yes, you might argue that's a Red Bull colour, but you look at Max Verstappen's website, that's front and centre, that dark blue. He's trying to own that, I think, himself. And then as the highlight colour on top of that, of course it's orange, all right? It has to be. I've got to now try and make this not look too McLaren, of course. I can't have a Max Verstappen F1 team and not include the Max Orange Army orange, can I? Max Verstappen's Formula 1 team would be called Verstappen GP. So now we got the logo. What's the next most important thing? Merchandise. We've got bills to pay, come on. Now, mocking up logos on pieces of merchandise can be quite an awkward thing to do properly. Typically requires a certain skill set in Photoshop, but thanks to today's video sponsor, Kittle, it's a little bit easier than you might think. Kittle is an intuitive design platform built into your browser that makes creating unique design concepts a breeze. Maybe you want to make a logo from scratch. Well, with the help of Kittle's AI tools, simply type your text prompt, pick a base design, modify the text and colors to your heart's content, and just like that, you've made something where before there was nothing. So how can I use Kittle to create some Verstappen GP merch? Well, first of all, the little MVGP logo that I've come up with, I can import that directly into Kittle. I can use the inbuilt sliders to add a bit of shadow, change the colors if I want, but specifically for this, I'm going to hit the mock-up button, which takes us to an absolute plethora of different t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, whatever that you can stick your logo on. I can change the background color of these tees and hoodies and shorts to dark blue to match the aesthetic I'm going with here. And boom, that's it. It's finished. Within a matter of seconds, you've got a pretty realistic looking mock-up of whatever design you want to create. Kittle even have their own YouTube channel, which genuinely I think is a really helpful resource, whether you're using Kittle or not, right? They have plenty of tutorials on the program, don't get me wrong, but just generally in terms of graphic design and just inspiration and how to composite and put things together, it's worth checking out. If you're interested in this industry but feel a bit intimidated by the expensive Adobe programs, I think Kittle's honestly a really good place to start. Use my link in the description below to sign up to Kittle for free and get making stuff. Right, so where's this team going to call home? What's the headquarters of the Max Verstappen Grand Prix team? Well, fortunately, I'm not basing it in the UK. Too many teams are based in the UK, all right? There's too much British bias. And yes, obviously having his own team based out of the Netherlands is, of course, a no-brainer. I mean, the absolute dedicated, singular support that Max gets from his home country, we only really see from Mexico and Checo fans. I'm sure the Dutch government would happily endorse a Verstappen Grand Prix team based at home, right? Going to generate local jobs for local people and stimulate that economy. And I'm sure Dutch sponsors will be clamoring to get onto that car. We'll get to that in a bit. Now, actually, last year I got the privilege to go to Team Redline, Max Verstappen's esports team, visit their facility just outside of Tilburg, from an esports point of view, is second to none. Incredible. And they have a couple of massive simulators there as well that I know junior drivers use a lot out of season. The industrial state that is based at, I think, would be a smart place to start. Don't get me wrong, I think with time he could build an incredible, MTC-esque facility, but just to get started, typical industrial estate, get a couple of units, stick them together. You got to get started somewhere, and I don't think immediately building your own facility from scratch would be the way. You got to remember this team would be an underdog team to start with, right? Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren, these are all much more established. This would be like a new Haas at the start, but obviously with a much more established Formula One name behind the wheel. And behind the wheel, I mean behind the wheel in senior. Max wouldn't be driving for his own team. Come on now, Max. Let someone else have some fun, because we'll get into drivers in a bit as well. Northern Europe isn't a region that particularly caters for F1 talent. I guess Himwil in Switzerland, but that's quite isolated. But Tilburg in southern Netherlands is very close to the Belgian border. It's very close to Eindhoven, which is one of the best Formula student teams in the world. It's a very established engineering university. Geographically, I think they would be in an amazing position to start hiring some of the best F1 talent potential minds in the world. So the Max Verstappen Formula One team would be based in Tilburg in the Netherlands. All right, what engine, what power unit is going in this car? As much as Max is great, do I see him building his own engine from scratch? Absolutely not, right? He wants to be competitive. Of course, he would take on a customer deal. McLaren are proving that you can do that and actually beat your engine providers. And with this, I am thinking of a Max Verstappen GP team in a realistic time frame, which would be like maybe, I don't know, 2030. And assuming that, I do think that Red Bull Powertrain's Ford would probably take over full naming rights. And obviously Max has a relationship with Red Bull now that is very strong. It would break when he starts his own team because, I mean, Red Bull already have two teams. You can't say they would also have Max's team. That would be 3 Red Bull teams on an 11-team grid. Well, hopefully this will be the 12th team. I'm going with Ford to power the car, the pre-existing relationship. If Honda were to return, then you could definitely make an argument for that. Who knows with Honda? Honestly, that's impossible. They probably, by 2030, they would have come back and then left again. But no, the Max Verstappen Formula One team will be powered by a Ford engine. Team principal time. Who is leading the line? Who is Max entrusting to take care and run his team? Verstappen GP. Well, GP. Look at James Vowles. He came through Mercedes as a strategist first and foremost. GP is on a similar path. He's not only Max Verstappen's race engineer right now, but he is head of race engineering at Red Bull Racing. So he also has a bit of a say over Checo's side of the garage and making sure it's all cohesive and working as intended. With the experience he's got with Max as well, GP's been in F1 for time now. He joined F1 back in the Jordan days. Obviously that team eventually becoming Force India, then he moved to Red Bull and has been with Max. Well, that was his first win, 2016. Barcelona, when Max got the job done as well, that was GP's first ever race win. If Max is going to trust anyone to lead the line and really understand the direction, what it takes to not only chase, as they've done for years, him and Max, right, in 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, but also know how to maintain those standards when you are at the top, it's Giampiero, man. Come on. Look at Andrea Stella as well. He used to be Fernando Alonso's race engineer at Ferrari back in the day. Moved over to McLaren and gradually moved up in a technical basis. They both studied mechanical engineering at university, got into an F1 team, and then built up that understanding over time. GP, come on. That's got to be it. Max Verstappen's Formula One team would be TP'd by GP. Drivers, who's at the wheel of this car, right? I'm picking driver 1 and 2, all right? Reserve, that can wait. I'm not doing reserve for 2030, come on. It will be some kid who's about 12 right now. Max will want someone that he trusts, he knows well, who will be very experienced at that time, but not too old and can fight for titles. Straight away, Lando Norris, come on. That's your boy. And look, Lando is proven right now he is very, very, very good. You give him the car and he will fight with Max Verstappen. I've got no doubt in my mind about that. And he's a great driver to carry on that Verstappen legacy. Lando's loved by the Orange Army as well. I know many of you big Lando Norris fans. I mean, he's got a Pit Stop Boys song for a reason, come on. Marketability-wise, obviously, he's huge, and I'm sure he still will be huge in 2030 when he'll be, how will he be then, like 32 or something? I'm sure before then, Lando will have won at least one world title. He'll have had his own success, and this could be a new exciting project, kind of like when, you know, Lewis went from McLaren to Mercedes. Lando goes from McLaren to Verstappen GP. Bosh. Alongside him, again, 2030, it's like 6 years away. I'm going to go for a young driver who's part of the Red Bull establishment. He's got a lot of room to grow because his age is still very young. I'm going Jack Crawford. I thought Jack Crawford was an interesting one. He's still only 18. His F2 season this season has been inconsistent, but he's been up there a number of times. 2 P3s, a P2 and a win, all in sprints, which are obviously reverse grid. But then the feature race at Zandvoort, he managed a P3 podium as well. I know that race was chaos, but you do what you got to do. He's not even been 18 that long either. He's from the States as well, which I think will just continue to grow. It could make sense. Again, that Red Bull connection, there's somewhat a connection to Max there now. He's 5 years younger than Lando, so he'll be in like his mid-20s by this stage, prime time, having done a few years in F1 already. Jack Crawford, Lando Norris will be my Verstappen GP drivers. All right, sponsor time. Who's going to be chucking their logo on this car? Now, I did ask you lot, I did put a community post out for your suggestions if Max Verstappen started his own Formula 1 team. Who would sponsor that team? So make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on those community posts in the future when it asks for your opinion, because I don't want it just to be me doing my own thing. I want to get you lot involved as much as I can as well. So first couple of obvious ones, and again, a lot of these are Dutch. Philips, no brainer, huge Dutch technology company, big sponsors on the PSV Eindhoven kit, and I know Max is a big PSV fan. ING Bank, famous Dutch bank that was on the Renault of Nelson Piquet Jr. when he crashed on purpose at Singapore in 2008. Subsequently, then they pulled their sponsorship, but with Max Verstappen starting his own F1 team, come on ING, you got to get on that. And they've got a lion in their logo, right? And Max is meant to be the lion. We've got EA Sports, obviously they've got a big deal with Max right now, and he's front and center on their helmet. We've got iRacing, he's a big iRacing fan, so that kind of feels like a bit of a no-brainer. A few of you suggested that one. Player 00, because you can't have Heineken. Obviously Heineken sponsor Max, but they can't have their logo because it's alcohol, so they have to have their 0% stuff, right? So chuck that on. CarNext as well, they're big sponsors of Max right now. They've been with him for pretty long, right? I feel like they've been on almost every single helmet he's had in F1. Puma used to supply Red Bull with all of their merchandise and their race overalls. Not anymore, but this is a good opportunity to bring them back, Max. Fanatec, because of his love of sim racing, of course, and Fanatec do that Fanatec GT World Championships, so they're already established in real world motorsport sponsorship. Got KLM in terms of airliners, right? Every team pretty much has got an airline sponsor. KLM, the Dutch airliner. ASML, like a technology company based out of the Netherlands. That was one a bunch of you lot suggested because I'd never heard of them, but apparently they're a big deal. And then finally, most importantly, based out of Amsterdam, Tony's Chocolonely, because you have to have a chocolate sponsorship, don't you? You have to have someone to provide the snacks and the treats because, you know, he won't be bringing Red Bull's catering over with him. Some of you did highlight that Tony's is very, very eco-friendly and that maybe doesn't associate well with Formula 1, but if they are going net carbon neutral by 2030, surely brands like this will appear more on F1 cars. Maybe, maybe not. So here are all the brands that are going to be sponsoring the Verstappen GP Formula 1 team. So how will those sponsors look on the race suits, the driver overalls? Combining that with the orange, the dark blue, and obviously there's going to be white text in here as well. And this is what I've come up with. I've slightly redone the template that I put together. I've added a bit of shadow on it just to make it look a little bit more realistic. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how these look. There's kind of an asymmetrical design to them because why not? I put Puma, these are Puma overalls. I've put the Puma text on the shoulders because I don't think they do enough to shout that they're actually Puma. And so, using your icon is fine in points, right? People recognize the Puma cap, but actually having Puma written there, you should really have a bit of both, I think. Big MV, Player 00, Viaplay, ING, iRacing, EA Sports is pretty prominent, and then Big Philips, very PSV Eindhoven-esque. With most overalls, you have the dark colour as the base because it's easier. You got to remember this is a billboard first and foremost, right? Above any aesthetic choices. Does it work as a billboard? Does it shout out these brand logos? That's why the navy is the dominant here versus the orange. It's there in bits and bobs. But don't you worry, with the car, they're much more equally balanced. So let's take a look then. Here is my livery design for the 2030 Verstappen GP team. Okay, what do you think? I hope you like it. Yes, we've gone quite evenly balanced orange to blue here. I don't want it to look too much like a McLaren, and I hope it doesn't. Let me know, does it look too much like a McLaren? Because you can have multiple cars with the same colour. I mean, Alfa Romeo and Ferrari both have red, although Alfa Romeo is a bit darker. Williams and Red Bull have quite similar coloured palettes as well, right? But they're distinct enough, they're different enough. I would have liked to maybe put a bit more orange on it, but again, I want it to be a Verstappen car, clearly, first and foremost. Coming to the front wing, you can see I've got the Verstappen logo on the nose and I've dotted it around. We've got the ING logos on the front wing, the logos kind of up the nose, and then the number 33, because, you know, that is Max's number at the end of the day when he eventually loses and drops the number 1, which it feels like that's a way off. With the side pod design, I've just kind of taken the blue and the orange in line with the curved nature of the car. I guess one thing maybe in hindsight, it's quite an angular design at the front and the back, but not so much in the middle. I'll be honest, I've not done one of these for a while, and this was my first one on my new laptop, so it's a little bit sloppy. It's not my best, but I don't know, maybe you like it. I think from both front on and side on, the balance is about equal, which is something I wanted. I didn't want it to look, you know, just orange from the front and just blue from the side, or vice versa. And I've stayed away because I think Red Bull sponsorship on this, I'm assuming they still have their own F1 team, so for them to then sponsor someone else as well would be a bit weird. Got a few details around the halo as well, and I've tried to listen. Do you remember when I did the video at Williams as well with Ed Scott? And I've tried to bring a bit more carbon fibre onto it, a bit more realistically. You can see on the engine inlets here, it's all carbon fibre. There's no paint there because you wouldn't in real life be able to put paint there because it's an aero-sensitive area. I'm learning slowly but surely. I'll pin a comment as well. Give this livery a rating out of 10. But yeah, what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Any thoughts? Do you think there was a driver I didn't think of? A team principal or something different with the livery? All your feedback is well appreciated, because if you've got this far in the video, then you are a real one, and I appreciate that. If you did, drop a like and subscribe to the channel, of course, and check out Kittle. Again, link in the description down below. Thank you, Kittle, for sponsoring this video. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.